3 years, they have no babies out there. They're very, very strict on their animals coming in. Yeah, quarantines are really long.
I'm about tripping on it.
Yeah, so Tina, they found that's what I had a puppy, a white lab mix puppy, because they don't know where it came from. They don't know how they smuggled it in.
I'm putting my phone down.
Where's yours? Is that yours?
Just turn it off, sir. Oh, wow, that was a mess.
Welcome to Screecher Sunday, everybody. How's everybody feeling? Good. Happy Halloween to everyone.
Wow.
Of course, tonight the theme is Halloween, so we are in store for all things spooky. We have a pin the nose on the pumpkin game we're going to play a little later in between performances. We've got some short independent horror films on the screen that we're going to play back here in between performances also. We've got an amazing performance from Dee Dee Delaney coming up, from Joseph DePaul. We also have MJ Entertainer, a Michael Jackson impersonator, who will be here later this evening. A couple performances from our open micers, including myself. And it's going to be a spooktacular evening. Is everybody ready to have a good time tonight?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to start with something called two-sentence horror stories. These little gems I ran across on the internet, and they're exactly what they sound like. Horror stories in 2 sentences. And some of them are remarkably chilling. My sister says that Mommy killed her. Mommy says, I don't have a sister. There was a picture in my phone of me sleeping. I live alone. Don't be scared of monsters. Just look for them. Look to your left. Look to your right. Under your bed, behind your dresser, in your closet, but never look up. She hates being seen. I began tucking him into bed, and he tells me, Daddy, check for monsters under my bed. I look underneath for his amusement and see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, Daddy, there's something on my bed.
That was awesome.
All right, so, everybody ready for their first performer?
Yes.
All right. This young lady came out to my Halloween party last night and took away the best costume prize. Please put your hands together for CJ Expression.
I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. 6 quarts of water boil in the large stock pot. Heat from the range matching the rising anger as I mentally acknowledge and mull over the recent history of your manipulative skills. Feigning friendship, learning my intricacies and soft spots, wielding intimate knowledge as a weapon. You demonstrated expertly that the line between friend and foe is very fine. Trembling fingers tear at the box and tip the long stems of pasta into my hand. Grasping the thin, brittle strands like a baton in both fists, I squeeze, picturing your neck. before snapping the lengths in two and dropping them into the boiling kettle. Stirring the serpentine wisps of drowning carbs and leering into the cauldron steam, I muse that the snake analogy is quite fine. While chopping the onions, I'm glad the ensuing tears of hurt and betrayal can be explained as culinary fallout. Collateral damage of prepping a dinner fit for a king. Gripping the knife and sliding its blade deep into the layered flesh, I fantasize of carving your dual nature into the surface of your face, rearranging it like a disturbed jack-o'-lantern, a visible warning to others. That public service would suit me just fine. Dicing the peppers, mushrooms, and celery, the splintered stalks are reminiscent of your long limbs. How I wish your legs had buckled and fractured, preventing you from ever darkening my doorway. How the hugs and caresses tearing at my memory could have been prevented by twisted, useless arms, never allowed to wind their way around my psyche and my heart. Knowing everything now, that would have been fine. Scraping the vegetables from the cutting board to the small pan, I force myself to put down the knife and instead stir the sauce. Deep red tomato paste evokes the blood coursing through your veins, as vile and misleading as your words. The familiar heartbeat, once thought to be my life's cadence, whispers in its cage, liar, liar. Your politician's smile from the living room assures that everything's fine. Flipping the knobs off, with rage simmering, the noodles are drained and the two concoctions are blended into an enticing supper. The burner beneath is set to warm, and the irony brings a smirk. I could never warm to you again. Not now. Unfaltering, the evening special ingredient is sifted from the monkey dish into the half-empty jar of grated Parmesan. Shaking the granules together, I marvel at its artful appearance. Innocent, unassuming, and fine. Serving us both healthy portions of spaghetti and bringing them tableside, the Parmesan is generously placed within your reach. You have a habit of overindulging in it. From my chair, the first bite twirled around the fork, I pause in reflection as you ask how I am. Awaiting reply, greedily coating your dish with a snowdrift of rat poison and cheese. You enthusiastically dig in. Smiling, I raise my wine glass in toast and reply, "Oh, I'm just fine."
One more time for CJ, everybody. All right. So, I think it's time for our first short horror film. Most of these are all, they're done by independent directors, college students. Let's see what
Locals or
I'm just going to play one at random because they're all labeled the same.
We'll be right back following these commercials.
Can everybody see?
For a nutritious breakfast. Hello, my name is Blueberry. My ghostly good blueberry flavored cereal, Blueberry, is part of this complete breakfast. Frankenberry's got strawberry flavored marshmallows. Count Chocula got chocolate marshmallows. But I've got blueberry flavored marshmallows. Frankenberry. Count Chocula. Blueberry.
Now back to the show.
No. No. Sure.
Boogeyman, here. There's nothing to be scared of. Are you sure? You can't kill the boogeyman.
We'll be right back following these commercials. Apply the taste that comes right from the heart of finest product.
All I know is I'm gonna hang out whatever that
All right. What y'all think of that?
was awesome.
I hadn't seen that one before. That was a surprise for me too.
The lights will be
Some of
on.
them are a little disappointing, but they're cool. All right. So everybody ready for their next performer?
Yeah.
Yes. Good. All right. I can't think of any better way to move on than with some magic after that. So please put your hands together for the venue's own Mr. Joseph DePaul.
Yeah.
All right. So, I figured I would do something.
Are you gonna be about
Yeah, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. George said I had the opportunity, a little bit of time. So, what we'll do here is opportunity for some close-up magic. So you guys can gather around if you like. Give me a second. Just
We may want to move up here.
Anybody want to switch places?
Card
Then I
magic.
got a Halloween themed piece I'll share with you.
Excellent.
So Halloween-ish, I guess.
This is too close.
Huh? What was that?
Maybe I had lights dim for ambiance, but
If you
maybe
want.
for the sake of
Yeah, for the sake of
recording.
clarity.
maybe we should.
Take the pack of cards. I want you to mix those up. Keep that one. Are we good? Mixed up to your satisfaction?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent. All right. And How we doing over there?
Okay.
All right, so both of these cards have been mixed. Both the decks have been mixed up. I want you to keep those right there. Now, it's Kitty,
Mia.
Mia, and
Tom.
Tom. Kitty, Mia, and Tom. Perfect. This is how we're going to get things started. I just want you to choose a card somewhere in the top spread. All right, perfect. Hold on to that. Take a moment. Either one's fine. Take a moment, memorize that card. You can make sure I don't see it, but you can show other people. Mia, I want you to choose one somewhere in the middle, please. All right, cool. Tom, and I want you to choose someone in this bottom third right there. All right, now what I want each of you to do is I'm going to give Kitty, I'm going to give you a marker. I want you to write your name on the back of the cards where it's red. I want you to do the same thing. And Kitty, when you're done, I'll just take the marker from you and we will pass it down to Tim.
Tom.
Tom, that's what I said. All right, Tom, I want you to take these. I want you to sign the back. All right, Kitty, while you're all settled and done, everyone's got a chance to look at it, what I want you to do is take your card. Let's put it somewhere back where you took it. Take a memory of that card. Don't forget it. All right, me, I want you to do the same thing. We'll put yours back somewhere where you take place right here. Got it?
Yes.
Don't forget your card. And what was the name? Tim.
Tom.
Tom. I'm not one of those acts that makes fun of people's names. I'm just an idiot. Ask Darrell. Daryl. Darrell. I got it right the first time. Yeah. I don't do it on purpose. I really don't. Now, Tim. Tom. Damn it. You're going to be a helper for this one. What I need you to do is put your hand right here. I can take the pen back. I'll take the pens back. Put your hand right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place the cards in your hand. I want you to keep them safe at all times. Cover them with the other hand. Cover them with the other hand. Keep it right there. Now, when it comes to magic, here's how we like to work these things out. Magicians will have you choose a card, and then they find it in the same deck it was chosen from. Fair enough? Easy enough to remember? All that kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to leave your cards in that deck, and I'm going to see if I can find your cards in a different deck. That making it a lot more difficult because, if you remember, Kitty mixed this deck up. Or no, Tom mixed the deck up and left it here. So I have no idea what your cards are going to be chosen prior to them being selected by three of you. So, show me. See if we can figure out. Kitty, what I want you to do is say the name of your card out loud.
10 of clubs.
10 of clubs. 10 of clubs. Now, Kitty, what I'm going to do, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to leave your card right here as just a marker where you are. Got it?
Okay.
All right, let's try this again. I want you to say the name of your card.
4 of clubs.
You sure?
Very sure.
No shit.
4 clubs. 4 clubs. Not bad, not bad. I'm going to leave your card. I'm going to leave your card right there as a marker where you are. Thank you. Tom. Yes. I want you to say the name of your card if you don't mind.
6 of clubs.
No, I'm just kidding. There it is, the 6 of clubs. Now, still not bad. Yes, 6 of clubs, we'll put that right there. But there's a problem. Because these aren't really your cards, are they?
No.
No, why?
Because they're not red.
They're not red.
They
And,
have our names on them.
and exactly, Kitty, they don't have your names. So if I were to put your names on
No way.
Joseph.
you can let go now.
Oh
You
my
can let
God!
go. Look how well they bent. All right, Tom, what I'm going to do, Tom, I'm going to give these to you as a souvenir. These are yours.
Oh, very
These are
nice.
yours for a souvenir. Let me see here. Mia, this time I want you to mix the cards up. If you don't mind, just please pick them up. You just mix them up any way you want.
I have to do my poker shuffle exactly. Really well.
My sleeves are not
I like
staying up, and I feel like it's
Sleeves
ruining
right
it.
there. Oh.
So, George, I'm going to borrow you for this one if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so these are mixed up. If you wouldn't mind just switching with Tom, I'll have you right there if you don't mind. Tom has already got. Now, Mia, you've mixed these up to your satisfaction. Yes?
Sure.
Anytime I ask when she's satisfied, I always get sure. That's the standard answer. Now, when it comes to dreams, do you have very vivid dreams? Do you remember yours?
Sometimes.
Sometimes you do. Now, do you ever have a moment where your dream acts as a premonition, almost like it happened,
Feels
and
that way,
then
yeah.
it's going to, and then it does in real life, something creepy,
Yeah.
something to that
Yeah, that
effect.
happens.
I have this every now and again, and it is not necessarily a pleasant event. However, in this case, it wasn't that big a deal. This is somewhat kind of like a prediction. I had one of these dreams where I was going to be here with you people exactly, and I wrote it down. No surprise here, I wrote it down on a playing card. But because I was so dead set and so sure of myself what this prediction was going to be, I put this playing card with my name on the back. Now we're just going to leave this here for a moment, and don't let me forget my prediction. Now remember, it was a red back playing card with my signature on it. George, this is where you're going to help me out.
Okay.
I'm going to drop the card slowly like this. I want you to say stop at any point you feel comfortable. That way you know I'm not making you stop.
Stop.
Right here.
Yes.
You positive?
I'm good.
In the dream, he stopped right there. Are you want me to go a little bit further? Just after I said that, that kind of messed with you a little bit?
No, it's we can say
He
it.
said that too. He said that too. Okay, so that one right there. I'm going to lock you in on this one.
Okay.
Are you absolutely certain?
I'm positive.
He was positive also. Except in that one, he was in his underpants. I couldn't explain that one, so don't tell me. Now, George, in this case, we stopped you on the 9 of hearts.
Okay.
Okay? What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to take the marker. I want you to write your name on the 9 of hearts. All right, we'll take the marker back. We'll absolutely make sure it is dry. There we go. You can see it doesn't rub off or anything like that. Yes?
Okay.
All right, now, George, what we do is we're going to take your card. And we are going to place it in the middle and leave it there. Now, the thing about playing cards and dreams is that they just have this uncanny mix between the two. I mean, when it comes to dreams, you feel like something's going to happen, and it does. Has anyone ever seen, do you know the movie The Maltese Falcon?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Have you? The book. Have you seen the movie with Humphrey Bogart and like that? Now, at the very end of the movie, when they get the fake Falcon, what's the thing that Bogart, or Sam Spade in this case, says to the police chief? The police chief asks him, "What is this thing?" Do you remember what he says?
Not quite.
Not quite.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. But it's one of the most famous lines in all of cinema. He says,
Play it against it.
"No, that's Casablanca."
Right actor, wrong movie.
Yeah. Humphrey Bogart says to the police chief, "It's the stuff dreams are made of."
Shut up.
You freaking kidding me?
Yo. Oh, yo. What the fuck?
But it's red.
You wrote your name on there, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, now I got one.
Like so?
What's his name? And that's Joseph DePaul.
Like hold on, like so?
Shut up.
Yes.
How did I end up signing the one that he had already?
Exactly.
Get the fuck.
That's going to be yours.
Oh,
That's
please,
definitely
thank
gonna be
you.
yours.
I'm framing that shit. Dual pane glass, I can flip it up.
Yeah, do that.
Now, who is remember? I guess ancient Greeks had their own form of horror stories and the like. I think CJ, you might want to help me out with this. Are you familiar with the story of Pandora's box? Now, actually, the translation's a little bit messed up. Not to get pedantic about this, believe it or not, it wasn't a box. It was actually a jar. In the original Greek, it was a jar. But for the sake of theatrics, we're going to use a little box. Now, for everyone's... What's that?
No, that's all right. It's my feature.
Oh, cool. So now, for the sake of ease, we are going to use a little box. Would you like to know what's in the box?
I always want to know what's in
Everyone
the
wants
box.
to know what's in the box. That's why that was what Pandora's downfall was, and actually, that's why I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. How badly do you want to see what's in the box?
Currently now 6, but probably 8 by the time you're done.
Okay. Now, I actually don't like the story of Pandora's box because I feel like it hurts creativity. It dampens curiosity. I don't necessarily like that, but there's something I do like. Jokers. And there's a reason why. Jokers were the types of they were court jesters. And they were kind of like the skeptics and stand-up comics and satirists of their time. They were basically able to criticize policies and the king and all that kind of good stuff without getting their heads chopped off. Now, CJ, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a card and I want you to name it out loud.
Four of hearts.
4
Of hearts.
of hearts. You're
Yes.
absolutely certain that's the one you want, the 4 of hearts. Okay, any reason why you want the 4 of hearts?
It's the first card to pop them
First
in.
card to pop there. Now what I want you to do, CJ, I want you to think of this very close. You thought of the hearts? Okay. I want you to write that down. You need to write on this. It's all right. Oh, and also I want you to sign your name underneath. Now, there's a reason why I'm having her do this, because jesters, much like impressionists of their time, they were the kind of people that could mimic people very well. So I'm going to have to ask you to scoot just a wee bit closer for me. So you chose the 4 hearts, the first thing that came into her mind. I think because you chose multiple hearts, I think you're a very loving person. Does that sound about right?
I think so.
I think so now. What I want you to do is I want you to slide Pandora's box just a little bit closer. At this point, I really don't even want to touch the glass. But I want you can just slide the glass towards you. Yeah, just slide it a little bit closer. That way I don't have to touch or anything. Yeah, a little bit closer. A little closer. Okay. Now, let's do this. You could have chosen any card you wanted. 9 of diamonds. King of spades, ace of clubs, all that. But you chose the 4 of hearts. Remember what I say about jokers and jesters? Imitators, impressionists of their time. Almost like the Frank Caliendo of medieval eras. Watch this very carefully. Did you see it? I know magic is kind of anticlimactic when you do stuff like this. But what I want you to do is I want you to pick up that card and show everyone what the jester has changed into. What? Now, this leads us to a very interesting question.
Where's the Joker?
Thank you. Okay, boy, I wish you read every single one of my shows. Where's the Joker?
In the box.
Maybe.
Baby.
No.
Freaking kidding me!
Are you kidding
I
me?
want
Really? Hold on.
Take it. I want you to open up and show everyone.
Oh my gosh.
Black magic.
Where's he, right?
Black magic.
And I know because it was on the
Goodness.
That's insane.
All right, so I'm gonna do 2 more and then we'll move on. This is the Halloween one. This one's the Halloween one. This one's very cool. Those who here, just as a quick survey, who here is a fan of blues? As told by Son House, Robert Johnson was the guitarist who was not particularly impressive or good in any shape, way, or form. And then all of a sudden one day becomes one of the most legendary, greatest blues guitarists of that time. And there's no explanation why. The explanation given by Son House is that somewhere in Mississippi, Robert Johnson went to what was called the Crossroads and made a deal with a very large, intimidating black figure. And then 2 years later, Robert Johnson is dead. But after that time, he became one of the greatest and most famous blues guitarists ever. Even his songs inspired the Rolling Stones. So about 4 years ago now, this past summer, I had gone on a road trip around the entire country. Not across the country, but quite literally around the country. And I stopped off in Mississippi, seeing if I could find what Johnson found. And sure enough, waiting at the crossroads, you get this strong smell of sulfur. And another large figure. And he and I made a transaction, having to do with playing cards, of course. And then about 3 years later, I was getting ready for a show. And that was that familiar smell. 2 years later. And that large black figure just pops up into the dressing room. And he goes, "You owe me something. But it wouldn't be fun if we didn't play any game." Pulls out these playing cards and he shows them. It's really quite simple. Each one of these cards, boy, represent you in some way. Powers that I gave you. Magician. There's about 8 total. All of them identical. But there's a game. One that you're going to have to remember very carefully. And one that you don't want to lose. Put these away. He left this right here. He says, now every single one of these is the same. This one is the one you don't want to get. It's death. Now every single one of these cards that I have here represent you. This is the one you don't want. I took the card and placed it right here. And you decide to mix the cards up. This is all you have to do. And he used a phrase that I use that usually don't mean much to me. He went, pick a card, any card. 1 in 8 chance. You keep your souls and your powers. And if you get a death card, you die. And come with me. So I figure, okay, I've done this before. 1 in 8. No casino would play that game. I figure, okay, I'll settle on this one. And then he shows. He put the card down. He went, You gotta know something when you play with the devil, boy. When the devil play cards, he cheats. And I said something to him. I went, well, sir, when I play cards, so do I. So I'll make this one the last one, and then we will move on. I want to do this. This one's kind of special. I've always been interested in science, in the theory of time and space. And to use this one, I need an unopened, virgin pack of playing cards.
Well, that excludes me.
I make an effort to point that out because I like to say the word virgin. Now notice the first time, this is when the hymen, seal is being broken.
Wow.
First time the sticker is being snapped. And you can see right here, this is in fact brand new, fresh pack of playing cards. We've got a couple of these little didgeridoo cards like this. See, have you gotten a chance? Kitty, actually, you're the closest. You're going to just help me out for a second. Actually, before we do that, what happened to my markers? Oh, where are they? Oh, in this hand. Okay, here we go. I'm going to need you to take one of those. Take that marker, and you're going to sign the Joker,
Okay.
but not on the front like you did before.
On the back.
On the back, like Kitty did earlier. I want you to just sign right here. And does anyone have a watch or a clock on them, or something where they can see the time?
I got one.
Well, just give me the time real quick.
8:07.
Right, 8:07 underneath that. This is about time and space. So, 8:07. We're going to keep that right there. And what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand overneath this Joker for the time being. Now, keep in mind right here, we have a clean pack of playing cards in perfect order, undisturbed. So for this, I'm just going to give this one quick, maybe 2 quick shuffles. As thorough as I most possibly can. Because some of us have always heard the phrases, time is relative or something to that effect. Where they feel that time is relative. Time is, at least in a physicist's mind, something that can be malleable. Something that can be changed, at least theoretically. The big knock on time travel. I mean, it's now become rather popular because of shows like Doctor Who and the like. Is that the engineering is not the feasible part. The theory is actually the easy part. So let's just start with this one right here. Now let's not do that. Okay. Ace of Hearts. Place the Ace of Hearts there on the bottom. Time. Well, let's just move it backwards in time just a little bit. And if you do that, you go back just enough that the ace comes back on top. Let's go back in time a little bit, not to disturb anything, because again, Ray Bradbury set down the parameters. The deck goes back to the point in time before I mixed it up. Let's go back just a little bit further. Wait, I want you to lift your hand up. Remember, you signed your name. Flip the Joker on the back. The signature's not there yet. But here's the rub. Tom, you might know this. The cards can travel back in time, but not travel back through space. That's why they're not in the box. So Kitty, what I want you to do is I want you to put the cards in the box for me, and then you can put.
I don't even know how you open it.
What do you mean? You mean open?
You
What?
are bullshitting me. You, oh my freaking, oh.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Is it empty?
It's
Take it.
sealed.
You can't open the fucking box. Oh shit, it is open. The hymen's not broken. And it's empty.
It's empty. The box. Remember now. Look, the hymen. I mean, the seal is
See?
untorn. The sticker's still there. The sticker's not disturbed in any way yet. Is utterly empty. Kitty, here you go. You get a little souvenir. Thank you very much, guys.
What?
Crazy.
I gotta get out of here.
My heart is racing.
One more time for Joseph
Yes.
DePaul, everybody.
Also, before we go, look over the wall. Look at the wall. Look at the wall.
Oh, sweet. She looks just like her. She looks just like Celia. They all look just like Celia. The long dark hair, the bright happy eyes framed in spectacles, so pretty. They're all the same. The pretty girls. Pretty little girls with pretty little mouths and pretty round little eyes telling pretty little lies through their pretty little mouths, just like Celia. I was 15 when we first dissected fetal pigs in science class. I remember reading somewhere that pig flesh reacts the most like a human's. I marveled at how the skin peeled apart for me under my scalpel like a silent zipper, revealing the pretty piggy insides, telling me their truths. I saved a few of the bones. I took them home and boiled the meat off them and saved them in a cedar box I'd been keeping tucked behind my bedpost. Mr. Artrip seemed disturbed at my insistence for another class dissection. I eventually stopped asking and just began collecting roadkill. Squirrels and rabbits mostly. Sometimes a raccoon. Once I even found a small dog, but most of his insides were already on the outside. His truth spilled carelessly all over the pavement. But I took them all home. One by one, I examined the pretty organs telling me their secrets, and I wanted so badly to preserve those truths. I suppose this could have led to a more socially acceptable pastime like taxidermy or biology, but it didn't. It led to people. It led to Celia. I knew she was keeping something from me. I knew that she was keeping something on the inside, and it drove me mad not knowing. But not knowing turned to wanting, turned to craving, turned to thirst, turned to hunger, turned to my hands tight around her throat, squeezing the truth from her. Tears welled up thick and heavy, snot and saliva spewed helplessly from her face. Every gurgle and choke made me feel more and more alive, and she never looked more beautiful than when she struggled. They all struggled to no end. It's an exercise in futility. I find it insulting, really. Still, they all eventually acquiesce, just like Celia. Once her pupils dilated, I unzipped her chest so I can see what she was keeping from me, and there it was. There, all for me, like a prize I'd worked so hard for. Her lungs were gorgeous, pink and young. I imagined how many times she must have filled them with the breaths of her deceit, her belly still filled with every morsel of pride she'd ever forced herself to swallow. I found my trust buried and jaundiced in her liver. On her heart there was a name, and it was not my own, and still her insides looked so pretty. bloody and real and moist and honest and so pretty. Celia was the first. They say you never forget your first, and I've lost track how many there have been since her, and I'm beginning to run out of room in the crawl space to hide my truth in. But she looks just like her. She looks just like Celia. And I'm curious what she might look like on the inside. Our next performer is the Joker of the evening. Please put your hands together for Her Royal Highness, Sexy Kitty. Hey, girl.
Hi. He was different. Not like the other guys. He was quiet and he had these sad eyes most of the time. The first time his eyes ever showed happy, we were back in school in biology and we were dissecting a pig. His eyes lit up like Christmas lights and his grin was really big. He took pleasure in his artwork performed by our lab scalpel. Making that bilateral cut through the subdermal from the tutor to the imaginary apple crammed tightly in the jaws before roasting.
No.
Each of his cuts was with such precision, it was almost like he was boasting. He was different, but he was smart. He was the first in class to identify each part. He maneuvered like a cardiosurgeon, carefully detaching the vessels from the heart, examining it closely before returning it to take the pig completely apart. Removing each organ and laying it out to dry, he unfolded the intestines and even popped out the eyes. And every now and then, I would catch him chime something about the pretty pink insides. He was different, in a cute kind of way. He was a little dark and eccentric, but I liked him anyway. He wasn't goth or anything like that, but he had his own swag. And I had this gnawing feeling in my gut to be the first girlfriend he ever had. He was sweet, very well-mannered and gentlemanly. He always gave me goosebumps whenever he would touch me. Not like skin crawling, but more like electricity, exciting. He was smart on top of all of that, and his conversation was inviting. I remember our first date. Nothing fancy, but it was nice. He invited me over for dinner, and we played this word game to break the ice. At the end of the evening, he simply waved as I drove away. Like I said, he was different. And this was a different type date. The second date, he touched my shoulder. And each date brought a little more. But although I adored his body, I never got to explore him. I thought it strange. Then he started to change. So I had to arrange distance from him. We were complicating He went from interrogating to berating to reprimanding. I wasn't standing, I wasn't withholding, yet he continued scolding, accused me of betraying, so I started concentrating on separating, but he just wasn't cooperating. But he accused me of having secrets. Said I was hiding them inside. I didn't know just how open I could get, trying to convince him that I never lied. Until he grasped and pressured me into blackness. I had no idea how he had spent so many years in practice for me. He executed his masterpiece artfully, exposed my pretty pink. He admired me, stroking my cheek and calling me his beauty, upheld my heart and didn't recognize his own name. He was different, but he was my beast, just the same. Once a week, I feel him trotting the narrow path. He kneels down before me and reads the epitaph. Here lies Celia, a beauty, to say the least. Did everything in her power to control her beast. Then I hear him sobbing, trying to get a grip as he continues struggling to read his own penmanship. She never led him wrong, but he always thought the worst. Now maybe she'll be honored, knowing she was his first.
Yeah.
All right.
You get home tired after a long day's work, ready for a relaxing night alone. You reach for the light switch, but another hand is already there. There's nothing like the laughter of a baby. Unless it's 1 a.m. and you don't have children. Growing up with cats and dogs, I got used to the sound of scratching at my door while I slept. Now that I live alone, it's much more unsettling. The last thing I saw was my alarm clock flashing 12:07 before she pushed her long, rotting nails through my chest, her other hand muffling my screams. I sat bolt upright, relieved it was only a dream, but as I saw my alarm clock read 12:06, I heard my closet door creak open. All right, time for our next film, everybody. Feel free to move up if you can't see. This one's called Behind Closed Doors.
What's all this racket?
A monster!
A monster.
Over there! In the closet!
Enough! If I hear another sound from you tonight, there'll be trouble.
But a monster!
There's no such thing as monsters.
Come on, Gregory. It's time for bed.
Oh, do I have to?
Yes, it's way past your bedtime.
But there's a monster in there.
That must be your father.
What's all this mess?
What mess? I've done exactly what you told me to do. Everything is tidy, just the way you like it.
Tidy? You call that tidy? Perhaps I should make myself more clear.
Please, you're just a little drunk. You don't know what
Little
you're...
drunk, am I? Why are you not in bed? Go to your room. Now!
Let me out, Gregory.
And what about this? This. And this. Get up. I said, get up. You, come here. Just like your mother. Can't obey a single. Hey, get back here. Don't walk away from me, boy. Gregory. You can't hide from me. There you are. You're a monster.
But there's no such thing as monsters.
Gregory?
It's alright, Mother. It's over. He can never hurt us again.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Not what he deserved. Ironically, he was a different kind of monster himself.
Mm-hmm.
The 2-sentence horror stories. Remember
Yes.
when I responded to you that I would write a bunch of them?
Yeah.
I did.
You got some for tonight?
I did.
Okay, then you will be back up here tonight with some of those. All right. So, pardon me. Is everybody ready for their next performer? Yeah. Our next feature of the evening. He's joined us every once in a while at the open mic, and we're glad that he's with us, featuring finally for us. Please put your hands together for MJ Entertainer. Awesome. One more time for MJ, everybody. We'll be seeing him again later, right? Come back up here?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right. So, you guys ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep.
All right. Please put your hands together for little sister Leanne Cosby.
This is a cover poem of an Edgar Allan Poe poem. It's called Alone. From their childhood's hour, I have not been. As others were, I have not seen. As others saw, I could not bring. My passions from a common spring. From the same source, I have not taken. My sorrow, I could not awaken. My heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Then in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, was drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled, in the autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky, as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm, and the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view.
Woo-woo! One more time for Leanne, everybody. Yeah! This is a piece I have called Ode 1031. The sun goes to bed early these days. The trees have shed their skins and stand as thin, dry bones, naked to the passive chill of fall, while their garments turn warm-colored hues, happily scattered across beautifully browning lawns and wind-chilled walkways. Tombstones moan from just over the hill, their hum low and sweetly somber. You can almost feel it vibrating through the cemetery grounds, up through the soles of your feet. Something wonderfully wicked this way comes. There is a marvelously melancholy melody playing from the hollows of an old mausoleum, and the beat is lively enough to raise the dead. And tonight it will. Tonight, skeletons and spirits will rejoice. Demons and devils will dance among us. Ghosts and goblins and ghouls, witches and vampires and monsters you could only imagine will roam free, celebrating alongside the joyous giggles of confection-crazed children. Tonight, the beasts run free. Tonight, for the first time in 364 days, I will fit in. All right. Up next, let's put our hands together for Thursday's own Mr. Tom Williams. Yep. All right. Abomination, they call you. Child of lightning and clay. Mad, they call me. Grave robber. Ghoul. But I made you. Less Adam, more fallen angel. But I made you. Except Satan has his companions, fellow devils to admire, encourage him, while you remain solitary, detested. I won't tell you how the sins of the father are visited upon the son.
you will see this for yourself. When the villagers come, and they will come, all axes and pitchforks, fire and fear, they will levy against you their version of justice, the sum of their ignorance. Ignore them. Their only science is the Old Testament. They believe the earth is 6,000 years old. They are petty. They worship a jealous God. A God who deals only in vengeance and death. A God who can't mark you as the horror that had no room in Eden. Only I can do that. I haven't read this in a really long time, but it seemed really appropriate for tonight. This is called Heartless. A man gives his heart to the woman he loves. First, he extracts it. The trickiest part, aside from the rib spreader, is not scratching the heart against the rib cage. He wrings out the blood left in the ventricles, washes off the clotted gore, pats the organ dry with a clean dish towel, trims the veins and small filaments, a very practical offering. The man chuckles as he slips this valentine into a red velvet pouch, the pouch into a silver gift bag. Pink tissue sticks out of the bag. Overall, a fine presentation. And why not? This is, after all, the big night. He waits almost smugly, not minding the blood seeping into his shoes as the woman he loves rips the tissue away. She reaches into the red pouch. Against her palm, smooth and cool, his heart starts to tick. Her fingers tighten. How heartless, she says. And of course she's right. The man slinks to the floor. He gasps, clutching his chest.
Wow.
Keep it going for Tom Williams. My daughter won't stop crying and screaming in the middle of the night. I visit her grave and ask her to stop, but it doesn't help. After working a hard day, I come home to see my girlfriend cradling our child. I don't know which is more frightening, seeing my dead girlfriend and our stillborn child, or knowing that someone broke into my apartment to place them there.
Wow.
I was having a pleasant dream when what sounded like hammering woke me. After that, I could barely hear the muffled sound of dirt covering the coffin from my own screams. All right, up next, please let's hear it for the venue's own ES.
So, what I'm about to read to y'all was actually inspired by one of those two-sentence horror story things. I just wrote this, so I'm excited to share this with y'all. The house they bought was brand new. No cursed ground upon which the foundation was laid. Husband and wife, Jose and Michelle, occupying a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, custom-built home to build their family. Now, Jose, not quite the drinker, is hung over from the housewarming gathering last night. Michelle's fine. She can handle her booze at 29 with 14 years of experience. I'm gonna go get you something to ease that headache, and how about something light like a banana or something? He nods his head with a moan and says, thank you so much. I love you. I love you too. See you in a bit, she says as she closes their bedroom door. As she closes their bedroom door behind her. Lying in bed while looking out the window, he watches and smiles at her backing out the driveway, blissfully awaiting for her return with medicine and nourishment. And in this moment, he hears on the bedroom door, violently injects fear in his chest. Every strike like a mic kick drum at a concert, resonating with so much low end frequency his soul cripples. Oh my God, go away, stop! Said those in his head only, because Jose has lost the ability to speak. He prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and it stopped. To his surprise, then a voice said, how about this? And the next blow landed on the door and the wall, simultaneously bringing the whole side of the room closer and closer to the bed he's trapped in, every strike deafening, staining the plaster with blood clots at every point, until the last one smashes through the west side to the east and out the front of the house like the busting of the guts of a home run baseball, landing on the front lawn like an explosive degree as Michelle pulls up and falls to the same amount of pieces. Her life and world has ended.
What?
Alright, so we're going to bring the house lights up for about 5-10 minutes. We're going to take a little break, intermission. Everybody get to know everybody, mingle, have a good time. See Snooki at the concession. We are taking up a collection due to the break-in that we had. There's a big pickle jar up there. Any donations you can make would be greatly appreciated. And then we're going to continue with everything that we're doing. Cool. And I'm changing my... Welcome back, everybody, to Screecher Sunday at the venue on 35th Street. Everybody having a good time so far?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to start our second half with another film. Darrell requested one. Hopefully I have it on this disc. If we do. Yes, we do. Yes. All right. This one's only 2 minutes, so we'll actually do 2. And then we'll go into our final feature for the night, and then we'll do some more open mic stuff. Everybody cool with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. This is called The Little Witch. And that did not play. Oh no. It's not playing. Okay, well.
Why is it doing
Something wrong with that particular file.
Is this online?
No.
Which is why I don't sit and talk to her about
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Someday you will die to find out how cooking. Nope.
Not at all.
Temptation.
Okay, I'm going home.
Screw the overtime, I'm out of here.
You don't know. Are you gonna type yes, Lord? Though?
Are you sure?
Hell, are you doing?
Nope.
This is not the time to be honest.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Click no.
Oh, wow.
See.
Oh, shit.
What? No, stop it.
Nope. No. Uh-oh.
I'm supposed to get that shit. Oh God, no! You said these are on YouTube?
These are all on YouTube.
Oh man, I've got to show my mother. Like, y'all don't even understand. This is her thing.
When y'all go home, y'all should watch the Little Witch one, because that shit is so awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need somebody to go with me because I live alone.
We'll be right back following these commercials. Someone's come for a nutritious breakfast.
Oh, we already played
Yeah,
this
I
one.
played that one. Oh Lord.
That stinks. Some of these are. You can also do a YouTube search on Daywalt Fear Factory. And he's an independent film director. He writes and directs all these himself. Films them. Yeah. Oh, this one's called Meat.
Are you crying? Why are you crying? Stop fucking crying, please.
I can't help it.
What do you mean you can't help it? You're a grown-ass man. Now pull your shit together and act like one.
How could you shoot it like that?
Because it was dying.
You don't know that. You don't know it was dying.
Oh, I didn't? Did you not look at it?
Yes, I looked at it. We could have taken it to, I don't know, a vet or something.
Its back leg was coming out its own asshole.
Because you hit it.
Because it jumped in front of my truck like a dipshit.
Because you were going too fast.
Because I'm a human, and we evolved thumbs and invented trucks so that when shit like this went down, we'd come out on top.
You're fucked in the head, you know that?
Calm down. Whatever it was, it's dead now. We might as well use them. There's good meat on it.
We're Indians now? Is that how it's gonna be?
Native Americans.
Whatever!
I'm 1/32nd Cherokee, And we don't waste any part of the animal we kill.
With our truck.
Shut up.
You shut up! God. It's definitely a unicorn. It smells like cupcakes back there!
What are you, a 9-year-old girl? It's not a unicorn. It's a retarded mule.
A retarded mule. You're telling me that you want to eat the meat of a dead retarded mule?
Look, I didn't kill a unicorn tonight, Eddie.
Yes, you did! Yes, you exactly did! You killed a magical unicorn!
Oh, now it's magical, too.
Well, is there any other kind of unicorn?
Whatever it is, it's not a unicorn.
No, it's not a unicorn. Now, how do you explain the rainbow that shot out its ass when you knocked it 30 feet back in the ditch? It bled sparkly glitter glue.
Wow.
Optical illusion.
The horn coming out of its head?
Now see, we're back to retarded mule.
How about when you held a gun up to its face and said, "Oh, Jesus Christ, please don't shoot me, I'm a magical unicorn"?
I will not be talking about it. You know.
Okay. We're still not wasting that meat.
Oh, come on!
He said we're still not wasting. So now for the part of the evening that I am most personally excited about. You guys are all in for a wonderful treat. If you have not seen Dee Dee Delaney's Bertha Doesn't Live Here story, you are in for a wonderful surprise. Please, please welcome to the stage our artist in residence, our poet, acting for poets coach, Mr. Dee Dee Delaney.
You know, madness is a strange thing. Well, people don't know exactly what it is, and that makes it kind of scary. But here's an interesting fact. Now, I apologize if it's a bit grim, but did you know that Hitler borrowed the whole idea of exterminating the Jews from the German psychiatric profession? Wow. Yeah. Those shrinks in Germany were killing off mental patients while Hitler was still hanging wallpaper. I read about that in a little newspaper called the Madness Network Newsletter. It's a small publication that advocates madness liberation. They don't publish it anymore. They haven't really published it for years. But actually, I'm very much in favor of Mad Lib. Bertha was a friend of mine. She rode in my van. I used to drive a van. Took people home in the evenings from a psychiatric daycare center in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, my hometown. It was a part-time job. Helped keep body and soul together while I worked as a volunteer editor at the Lancaster Independent Press, or LIP, as we called it for short. Bertha lived in a rest home, run by a Pennsylvania Dutch fundamentalist couple. Martin was their name. They had a big old converted farmhouse that sat by itself on top of a hill in the country north of the small town of Ephrata. You couldn't see it from the road. When it snowed in the winter, you couldn't even get up the driveway. Well, I used to play the radio all the time in the van, top 40. It was a distraction for our minds. Well, most of my clients didn't really like silence. I didn't like it that much myself. Well, silence is not that enjoyable for people with disturbed thoughts. So there was this one song that was popular at the time. It had a chorus that repeated itself over and over. Enjoy yourself, enjoy yourself. Bertha questioned me about it. What is that song saying? Saying enjoy yourself, Bertha. Enjoy yourself. But the next time it came on, she asked me again. What is that song saying? It's saying enjoy yourself. No, it's saying Papa's dead. What am I to make of this? I let it go. Hey, I'm only the driver. All I'm supposed to do is get these people home in the evenings, just deliver their bodies. But not long after that, Bertha asked me another curious question. Where do they get the things they play on the radio? So I started to explain to her about radio stations, recording studios, big cities, money. But Bertha wasn't interested in those things. When I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw that she was just staring out the window. There was another song that was popular at the time. Torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool. Remember that one? Where is he? Why don't they say where he is? Where's who, Bertha? My brother. They say my brother is dying, but I don't know where he is. You mean they're saying that on the radio, Bertha? Yes, they're singing a song about it. Well, actually, Bertha, I think if you listen, you'll realize that the song is about how this woman loves two men and she just can't decide. But Bertha wasn't listening. Now, as it usually happened, when I drove into the country north of the small town of Ephrata, north of Ephrata Mountain, all the radio stations from the outside world would cut out. All I could get were local religious stations, so I just turned the radio off. Oh, thank goodness. Listening to that radio all the time drives me crazy. You don't like the radio, Bertha? No. All they do is talk about my life. They certainly do know how to torment a person. Bertha used to like to know what I was going to have for supper. Gave her some kind of vicarious pleasure, I guess. She said she never got enough to eat at the nursing home. Well, they never had dessert. We always had dessert in my home. So I stopped at a Dairy Queen one day outside of Ephrata and bought her an ice cream cone. She stood there in the parking lot holding her cone, her blue eyes shining. God bless you, Mr. Driver, she said. So I guess maybe Bertha came to trust me. Maybe that was it. She must have thought that I was someone she could tell her secrets to. We were driving up through the hills one day. It was one of those crisp, frozen days in winter with the fields all laid out in snow and a red sunset coming on. Bertha sat in her usual place in the seat behind me. I'd let everyone else off except Louise. Now, Louise lived at the same place as Bertha, but she never said anything. Half her jaw was missing from an accident, and she didn't like to hear herself talk. So she would just sit in the back of the van and smoke cigarettes, which you could do in those days. So now the radio is off, and I'm just concentrating on the twists and turns in the road when I feel Bertha lean up close to my ear. They've got an electric chair. What? They've got an electric chair. Who has an electric chair, Bertha? At the place. Where you live? Yes. I could feel the back of my hair prickle. I mean, I'd just been thinking about that article I told you about in the Madness Network newsletter. In fact, we reprinted it in lip. This was on my mind. Bertha, how do you know this? People disappear. But how do you know it's an electric chair? I've studied about these things. But what makes you think it's an electric chair? The lights go dim. And then in the morning, somebody's missing. No. Bertha, have you ever seen this electric chair? No, I haven't. Well, where do you think they keep it? I think it's in the basement. I keep driving. No one talks. But my mind is spinning. Well, what if it's true? What if there really is an electric chair in the basement of that place? That place for nameless, homeless people who no one would ever miss. What a story! I mean, God, it's not that hard to... Well, I mean, it must have occurred to you, too, that... What I'm trying to say is, there is credible literature which suggests that the whole world is really run by a fascist dictatorship. You see what I'm driving at? Well, I couldn't just forget about that. No, I felt duty-bound to check into it. I mean, if there really is an electric chair in that basement, one that they use for Christ's sake, and we published it in lip, well, that would be the ultimate expose. It would blow the lid off the entire county. No, I couldn't forget about that. I had to check it out. When we got to the place, I helped Bertha and Louise across the ice to the side door where they always went in, and then I said that I would come in to use the bathroom. I left Bertha and Louise in the lounge. Good night. Good night. Have a good evening. Then I continued on down the rest of the hall and through the doors at the other end. Sure enough, there was a stairwell. I went down into the basement. I thought I must be crazy. But I had to do it. The hallway down here was pretty much like upstairs with doors going off. I didn't think they'd keep it behind any ordinary door, so I just passed them by. I didn't think I had much time. But then I saw this wooden door, all of one piece, not like the others. I tried it, and it opened. It was just the furnace room. I really had to doubt my sanity. I mean, what did I think I was doing? I wouldn't want anyone to know about this. I decided to just hurry on down the rest of the hall and get out. But then I saw this metal door. I might not have even noticed it, except it was open a couple of inches. There was a light on inside. I stuck my head in to look. Just a couple of freezers. There was one over there and one right here inside the door. No one was in the room. But why did they have such a heavy metal door on a freezer room? Unless people like Bertha tried to break in and steal desserts. Still, I went inside. Don't ask me why. Something else seemed to be taking over my body, some kind of altered energy. Well, it almost seemed as if I could hear the walls holding up the building, making these faint, tight, crunching and grinding sounds. I wanted to look at an alcove that seemed to go back on the other side of the far freezer. A few feet back into the alcove, there hung a heavy black curtain of velvet or velour. Probably just a storeroom area, but why such a heavy black curtain? I reached out and I pulled the curtain aside just a little bit. And there it was! It had plastic draped over it, the way fussy people have over their living room furniture. I left quickly. I don't even remember if I pulled the door back. Yes, I think I did. I headed on down the hall fast. Not running though, just fast. I swear the hall got longer. The faster I moved, the longer it got, till I thought I'd never get to the end of it. And then this woman appears out of a door. She just appears. She had the little lace Mennonite cap on her head and a face like a nasty cloud looking down on the world. What are you doing here? Nothing. I belong here. No, I don't belong here. I'm just looking for a bathroom. Look, it's okay. I'm the driver. I brought Bertha and Louise. Bathroom's upstairs. Right, of course. I must have made a wrong turn. I'm sorry to bother you. Thanks a lot. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening. But I skipped the bathroom. I headed straight for the van and I got the hell out of there. I swear I didn't take a straight thought or draw a full breath until I was on the other side of Ephrata, heading back down the highway toward Lancaster at 80 miles an hour. And then I thought, well, I still can't prove anything. Well, maybe this guy Martin just collects electric chairs. I mean, there are weirder things in the world. I hadn't even looked to see if there are any wires attached to the damn thing. That's how dynamite a reporter I am. I needed advice, but who could I tell? Who could I trust to be cool enough to listen and not blow it? No one. That's who. I spent the night at the lip office, tossing and turning on an old pile of back issues. The next day, cautious, composed, I went to work. I planned to drop a few veiled questions here and there, just feel out the situation a bit. As luck would have it, my supervisor was in the office when I arrived. She approached me. Delaney, I was just blown away by that article in Lip this week about the extermination of mental patients. I didn't know about that before. I guess it shouldn't surprise me, knowing how things were in Germany at that time. But still, it just blew me away completely. It certainly doesn't say much for the German psychiatric profession. No. In a flash, I decided to tell her. And you can imagine how it blew me away. Because I was just thinking about that article when yesterday Bertha told me that Bertha is a very sick lady. Oh, yeah, she's pretty crazy, but in fact, that's another thing I wanted to tell you. That Bertha won't be coming in anymore. Her delusions have been getting worse and worse. We're arranging to have her hospitalized. Hospitalized. So they were putting Bertha away. Or were they? I decided I'd better not say anything more just then. I waited until I was helping Louise across the ice to the side door in the rest home. And then I said, "Where's Bertha today?" "I don't know. She's so queer." "Louise, you didn't happen to notice, did you, if the lights here at the home went dim sometime last night?" "Oh, I don't know." I went inside. I approached the first lady I saw who looked like she worked there. I said, "Excuse me, I wonder if I might say hello to Bertha. I understand she's not feeling well." "Oh, why, Bertha don't live here no more. They took her away this morning." "Oh, and where did they take her?" "Oh, I don't know where they take them."
Wow.
I freaked. I went to the state police at Ephrata. I said, "I'm afraid there's been a murder." Didn't that spark their interest, though? A couple of detectives whisked me into a side room, sat me down, and closed the door. There I told them the same story I've just told you. The main point was I saw the electric chair. I saw it. After I was finished, the one detective gets up and leaves. Then the other one pours me a cup of coffee. "Here, bud, this'll help calm your nerves." Then he left too. I could tell something was up. Didn't feel too good. I didn't have to wait too long to find out what it was either. The door opens, and in comes a fat guy with 4 virile-looking guys in white jackets. The Psycho Squad. Good evening, says the fat guy. And how are we doing this evening? Wait a minute. But those guys didn't stand on ceremony. I see this wall of white jackets coming right for me. I see the fat guy holding up a hypodermic needle. He must have had it palmed in his hand. So, I was right. They are fascists, every one of them. Okay, I'm sorry. I give up. They relaxed. Then I bolted. Somehow I actually made it into the hall. I don't think I expected to, but there it was. The empty hall just ahead of me, and then the doors. I thought I just might get away. But then I felt something holding my legs. I look down and I see these white jacket arms wrapped around my knees. Then a weight comes down on my back and more white jacket arms wrapped around my chest. But I don't care. I just keep going. I see a guy in a white jacket fly over my head. And then my chest is free. But then another one takes his place. I see another white jacket fly. There are white jackets flying all over the place. I stopped to watch them. It was like a dream. But then I realized I'm beginning to fall. Very slowly at first, like a skyscraper in a movie. But the more I leaned, the faster it went. And then I was down. There were white jackets all over me now. And there in the middle of them was the fat guy with his knee in my chest, his tongue sticking out between his teeth and beads of sweat running down around his little hard-set eyes. I never felt the needle. I never felt anything. I just woke up. It was white above me, all around me. I wondered if I had died. I could hear music coming from somewhere, not too far away. But then, I realized I couldn't move. Except my head. I could turn my head. I saw that I was lying on a cot in the middle of a narrow room. Across from me was a door, all white. But a little square window in the middle of the door had a face looking in at me through a couple of bars. When I looked at it, it went away. Then it all came back to me. Bertha, the scene at the police station, and this was a padded cell. They had me in a padded cell. Me. I never dreamed anything like this could happen to me. I fought, I thrashed, I strained, I writhed, trying to get my body free, but it was no use. I ended up exhausted and drenched in sweat. So I guess I owed this a little thought. The music was coming from the hall. I realized it was a radio. Well, I believe they were singing a song to me. Bertha's fine, Bertha's fine. How did they know that? After the song ended, an announcer came on with the news. Our top story of the day is Bertha's arrival in the peaceful province of Ura, here in central Uranus. I could hardly believe my ears. Her first word to reporters was a message back to Earth. A crackling noise came across, and then another voice. I just want the driver to know that I'm all right. Everything is heavenly. God bless you, Mr. Driver. This amazing, peaceful feeling spread all the way down through my body. And I lay there in my straitjacket like a dreamer in a perfect world. After a while, the door opened and the doctor came in. I guess he was the doctor. He had on a white coat and carried a clipboard. A couple of the white jackets trailed along behind him. Well, I see you're awake. Yeah, I'm awake. You had quite a siege of it last night, didn't you? Oh, feels like I had a very bizarre dream. Well, how are you feeling now? Very peaceful. Oh, well, good, good. Glad to hear it. Maybe this afternoon you can sit up and tell us about it. Maybe so. I saw he was turning to leave. Doctor, tell me, where do you think they get that stuff they play on the radio? What stuff do you mean? Well, you know, the songs, the news, all that stuff they play. Where do you think they get it? Oh, well, it's pre-recorded mostly in studios in L.A., New York. They sell it to our local stations. Why? What are you laughing at? I'm not laughing. You were laughing. Did I say something funny? No. No, not that funny. And the white jackets swished on out of the room, banging the door behind them. Kaboom! I never said anything more to them about Bertha. So, they could never really find anything wrong with me. And after a few days, they gave me a prescription and let me go. I think they watched me for a while. They may be watching me still. But while I was in there, I heard this poem on the radio. The announcer told me to write it down. Goes like this. In the halls of justice and law, I've seen the gavel fall on the heads of the innocent. My very own head has its lumps. From this I learned the state is one cruel mother. Once giving life, she loves to smother it out with glee. Better to lay low here with me, my love, than climb the tree of society. Forget vanity. The only safe harbor is insanity.
One more time for Dee Dee Delaney. That was amazing. All right.
Time for another movie, guys.
Yeah.
Danny, can you hand me my phone? Danny, I swear to God. Hello?
Oh, hell no. Bitch, I'm about to save this week.
Oh, I love it.
I am stabbing whatever whatever it is under that cover. I don't even want to know. I can't.
Based on.
Dear Heinrich, I just got your email and I wanted to write you back as soon as possible. Needless to say, I'm really excited to see you.
Damn it.
I've told my husband it's a work trip. I can't wait to see you in person. To hold you. To taste you. To feel you inside me.
That was interesting. To say the least. So we've got 2 more performances, and that'll do it for us this evening. Has everybody been having a good time? A girl heard her mom yell her name from downstairs, so she got up and started to head down. As she got to the stairs, her mom pulled her into the room and said, "I heard that too." I awoke to the sound of the baby monitor crackling with a voice comforting my firstborn child. As I adjusted into a new position, my arm brushed against my wife sleeping next to me. My wife woke me up last night to tell me there was an intruder in our house. She was murdered by an intruder 2 years ago. All right. Up next on the mic, please put your hands together again for Sexy Kitty.
The longer I sit, the more the ankle hurts. I was gonna do none. But as I look at the time, the 2-sentence horror stories inspired something in me as well. So I wrote my own 2-sentence horror stories. And the first one is like a riddle. What do you call a spirit that has been hurled onto you by another spirit? A catapultergeist. Yes, I thought of that all by myself. Okay, here we go. We're going to kind of whirl through these. On their wedding day, the groom knew that his bride's face was malformed, but he insisted that she remove her veil. It was the only skin she had ever known. I don't think I tied the noose tight enough. I roam these same halls and still no one even notices me. Here I am, another day for another $1. He said, this job will be the death of you. But I don't remember seeing the robber pull the trigger. Those daisies are bigger and prettier than any your grandmother grew. Come to think of it, that was her favorite spot. As she tightened her deadly grip around his neck, he vowed that he would see her in hell. Now they walk eternally hand in hand. I just did that one today. She makes my skin crawl every time she touches me. Today, they extracted 27 worms. They say old habits die hard. He was 87, and they shot Mr. Habits 32 times. I married my best friend and gave him everything I could possibly give him. I even dug up a boy and placed him in his coffin with him. I gave him a son.
Damn, fuck. Damn, kitty. Work. Sick.
I love nature and was always dreaming of being one with the earth. Excuse me, back up. He loved nature and was always dreaming of being one with the earth. With the help of my axe and shovel, I have the most beautifully decorated yard in the neighborhood, and I helped him fulfill his dream. Being an alcoholic, I was lucky to find a man who gave himself completely to me and constantly stroked my insecurity, letting me know that he was all mine. Today I cut my wrists and bled life into my Bloody Marys. Yeah. Just before he died, I gave him the key to my heart. So who keeps opening my doors at night? I ran frantically through the overgrown grass to the house to warn him of the walkers coming. The closer I got, the squishing between my toes let me know I was too late. I traveled hundreds of miles to partake in the fountain of youth. Where are the children?
One more time for Sexy Kitty. Our last performer before we close it out tonight has a story for us, so let's give it up one more time for the Scarecrows, CJ.
Usually I do poetry, or I'll relate stories that I've created. This is 100% true. I don't speak of it much because sometimes it really freaks people out. We moved into the house in April of 2000, the current house that some of you guys have visited. And as is custom, I have a small room that's just for me, and that's where I do my meditation, and I set up my little me stuff, and sometimes I dabble in magic. And as is custom, I do a protection around the room involving a smudge stick and blessed water and various symbols. So I was in this process, and we had just moved in. Nothing was plugged in yet. My stereo, the plug was snaked around the carpet. And as I'm approaching the third wall of the four-walled room, including the closet, I hear this laugh. Well, I kind of paused, and I lived with two guys at the time, and I thought, okay, they're messing with me. So I peeked out into the hallway, saw no one. I could hear them playing video games in the living room. Went back to what I was doing. Started all over, because I wanted to be sure. Got to the fourth wall, midway through, where I was making an inscription. And again the voice said, "Your little protections aren't going to stop me." So I thought, all right, the guys are really messing with me. So I ran to the door this time, poked my head out, and I stalked into the living room. "Will you guys quit?" They both turned around and looked at me like I was crazy. I said, "What are you talking about? You're in your room, we're doing this, what's wrong?" I said, "Yeah, like you guys aren't standing in the hallway saying shit to scare me." They swore up and down they weren't, and kind of got mad that I wasn't believing them, so I figured, all right, maybe they're telling the truth. They came in, and they said, oh, it's probably just a voice from the CD tower, or the CB tower we saw down the block. You know, you're picking up transmissions. And I said, no, it's unplugged, look. And they said, well, it's nothing, don't worry about it. Keep doing what you're doing. So I started again. Finished the whole thing uneventfully. That was April 2000. Flash forward to November of 2000. My mother was staying with me after an unfortunate medical experience. And she was staying in the only room that I could say was a guest room, which was my room. And I told her when she came, just, you can do anything you want in here, just do me a favor and don't touch the altar. She's cool with that. She's Catholic, she doesn't mess with anything I mess with, but she's good with letting me do my own thing. We hadn't heard anything since the cleansing of the room. And we were accustomed to seeing things in some of the other places we were at, but nothing unusual had happened since that night. That evening I said good night to my mother, she closed the door, and in the morning she got up and came into the kitchen, and I said, how'd you sleep? She goes, I slept all right. And I said, okay. She says, I have a question for you. Do you have anything in the house? Now, my mother's a Catholic. She believes in saints, but not spirits. And I said, well, you know, what did you see? Because I'm thinking she saw the little brown dog that friends of mine have seen. I don't have a dog. She says, well, I didn't see anything, but I was reading my book. And I put the book on the floor, and a voice came through and said, if you do that again, I'll kill you. So, trying not to freak my mother out, I said, I took the stereo out of your room. So, maybe you were hearing something from the stereo in my room, the radio or something. She says, no. She says, I heard it like it was standing next to me. And I said, okay, do you want to sleep somewhere else during your visit? Because I really didn't know what else to tell her. And she says, no, I'm going to stay in the room. And I kind of looked at my mom and I said, okay. What exactly were you doing again? She says, I was reading my book and I put it down on the floor. And it said, if you do that again, I'll kill you. And I said, and you went to sleep in there? And she says, yes. And I asked her, I said, well, and you don't want to move out of there for the rest of the 2 weeks? She says, no, because if I move out, it'll know I'm scared and it'll win. True story.
Wow. If you would.
Sure. Actually, come on up now.
You
Let's hear it for
would.
Joseph.
I haven't been around just because I've been busy. I can't come on Thursdays because I do something in Newport News, and I won't be here on Mondays for the next couple months because I'm taking classes at the Push Theater. So I don't get to read very often, so I figured I'll try this. Leanne gave me the idea, and so this piece doesn't, I haven't read this since I was in 8th grade, and I figured this piece doesn't need any introduction. So give it a shot. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. As someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, nothing more." I remember it was in bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease from sorrow, sorrow from the lost Lenore. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angel named Lenore, nameless here and nevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entering entrance at my chamber door, like visitor entering entrance at my chamber door. This is it, and nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," I said, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. For the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce and was sure I heard you. There I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. Deep into darkness, peering long, I stood wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there was spoken was the whisper word. "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo muttered back the word Lenore. Merely this was, and nothing more. Back in the chamber, turning my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," I said, "surely this was something at my window lattice. Let me see then." That was threatened this, and this mystery explored. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with a many flirt and flutter, there stepped a stately raven of saintly days of yore. Not at least obstinate he made, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiled by sad fancy, onto smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though my chest be sore and safe thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore? Tell me what thy lordly name is on night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled, this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing a bird above its chamber door, bird or beast upon a sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the palace bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather did he flutter, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he'll leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by the reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, I said, what it utters is only stock and store caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his song one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore. Oh, never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my fancy onto smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of the bird, and bust the door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself linking fancy onto fancy, thinking, what this ominous bird of yore, what grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, never bore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burn in my bosom's core. This and more I sat diving with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight glowed o'er, but whose velvet violet lining in the lamplight glowing o'er she shall press, never bore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the turfed floor. Wench, I cried, thy God hath lent thee. By these angels he hath sent thee. Respite, on Neothin, from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, this kind of Neothes, and forgot this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, thing of evil prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempest sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enhanced, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in guilt? Tell me, I implore, quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, thing of evil, prophet still, bird or devil, by the heaven that bends above us, by the God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Iden it clasps a sainted maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting, get thee back onto the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy so hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy break from out my heart, and take thy form from my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting. Still is sitting on a pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. His eyes have all the seeming of a devil that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him seeming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore.
One more time for Joseph. Once upon a time, not long ago, I got a phone call from a studio. It was like 10 a.m. and I was sawing wood. I answered the phone like, damn it, man, this better be good. That's when a creepy little voice said, it's Drop Dead Fred. I said, what's up, Dead Fred? This is what he said. He said, listen, Maestro, I've got some ill-ass tracks. I think you'd really like them if you gave them a chance. I said, all right. Getting there's a breeze. Grab a couple notebooks and I hopped in the V. Raise a blunt up, soak the sun up in the warm Virginia summer, bumping Slick Rick, KRS-One, and Stevie Wonder. I got to the spot and I got this bad feeling the studio was looking more like an abandoned building. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit shook, but there's this song I had to finish that just needed a hook. So I brushed it off and I stepped through the door. Didn't help my nerves any with the creak in the floor. I looked around, cobwebs on the wall, dirt on the floor. This wasn't like any studio I'd been in before. All of a sudden, from the left, I heard that voice again. Glad you made it, Maestro. Hi, I'm Drop Dead Fred. I turned around and saw this creepy little man in front of me, like a cross between a zombie and a mini-me wannabe. He said, "Follow me down to Studio B. I've got some tracks loaded on my MPC." Now, I could follow Fred to the booth, or I can leave now and just make up an excuse, but at the moment, I just couldn't think of nothing to say, so I just turned and followed Fred down this dark hallway. It was dusty and lit with candles, and all over the walls, there were pictures of all the rappers that had been there before.